I will burn in hell for what I did. But I have everything equally in childhood. My life is always I divided into two different worlds. In my studies I was a quiet botanist of which no one I touched, and at home I talked with enough a tough company of guys, and constantly fell into trouble of drinking a fight of a substance, and other shit. I tried to hold these two worlds separately. I went to study in another area due to the fact that he studied in class for children with special needs, so it was not difficult for me to share these two parts of my life. Although sometimes they uncrossed. For example, once one student grabbed the workshop for my Velcro chatting behind on sneakers and I fell in the end. He got into the hospital because I got an acute side hammer in the face. After all consultations at psychologist and court, I decided to avoid such little things in the future. I left a message, and he was heard. In me a reputation. It is better not to contact him, if people it will not take anyone to pick up. When I quit drinking and consuming substances, I decided to leave in violence, not because I didn't like it, but on the contrary, I was too good about it, and the pleasure of causing pain to other people overshadowed any drug. Has passed for me years. I entered the local college, stopped communicating tightly with that tough company, but sometimes still with them intersected. I went to the same classes with my friend's younger sister. I saw how she was from a little girl grew into a woman, because of which he belonged to. She started to her sister as her sister meet with a guy who else with high school was a shitty reputation. The person was a year younger than me and walked rumors that he pawed the girls in the corridor, but he was not punished for this because that he was a star of a football team. Dude was deprived of a scholarship in college, supposedly due to assessments. Although by hearing after him there were several accusations of a rave. Warned her about this guy, but I did not listen. Once after the lesson I went to this shit and said that it girl for me like a sister, and that I treated it well through. For a while she stopped visiting all my classes. After a week I went to her parents to leave abstracts, and I learned the terrible news. This Govnuk, I poured some rubbish into the drink and took advantage of her helplessness on school event, and then threw it under the stands of the stadium, where it was later found more than that he infected her a few STDs. I decided to him for this. I knew where he usually parks after missing classes. I pissed him off when he walked to his car. In the trunk he had a broom for cleaning the car from. At first I took out a brass knuckle and how it should be marked, and then the broom took him to the forest and put him on her, left him bent over the table for a picnic with a protruding broom, then went into local pharmacy for hydrogen peaks to rinse blood, and went to visit it brother who was in prison. Told he what happened to him, what I did, and asked to meet him in prison. As it turned out to be happy that this Govnuk was a long list of enemies who also wanted his death. Soon the police interrogated me, but I have nothing to them said and directed them to possible victims. This goat, and now universal revenge. I introduced certificates to find out where this shit is ruled. After the hospital, it turned out that he was sent to one of camps in the same prison complex where the older brother of the injured girl was sitting, although it was a different block. He was close enough, and was in the zone of influence. I was told several names with whom it was necessary to contact, and I transferred some money for their prison store to be guys smeared skis, and reached that Govnuk. I assumed that he was just purn morning sharpening, and this will end in the end. Turned out that shit was subjected to group reprisal by 10 people alone, of which HIV infected him. After that, how all messages were transmitted to me. A man came up and showed a video from the phone on which everything was captured. What happened in a few weeks. Govnuk died of sepsis. Sanitar, who I had to take care of him, took himself antibiotics prescribed to him, and anesthetizing this man received double benefit, was paid for departure, and he in addition. He sold these tablets. The only witness to my role in this history was now dead, and to me it remains only to help the sister recover. After all what happened, I know what kind of I will go to at, but me still possible nightmares are possible, who tormented me years after that will become enough payment for my sins. But who knows the update? I lowered some details to make the story turn out not so long, and to protect those whose names it was not necessary to mention. From 8 to 15 years, I was not engaged in crando until I started abuse your medicines from ADHD, and everyone that came to hand about. I mentioned the incident with a hammer in passing because it was given only to context and was not the main topic. Stories after this incident of me removed from class to hearing about possible exclusion at a meeting of the council education was focused on the inaction of the teacher, who I ignored my warnings. I told the teacher something, he will decide the problem, or I will do it, and me I did. After that I every week attended a school psychologist to the end school year to determine whether I pose a threat to others. Pupils of the scars on the face of that was given only to context and was not the main topic. Stories after this incident of me removed from class to hearing about possible exclusion at a meeting of the council education was focused on the inaction of the teacher, who I ignored my warnings. I told the teacher something, he will decide the problem, or I will do it, and me I did. After that I every week attended a school psychologist to the end school year to determine whether I pose a threat to others. Pupils of the scars on the face of that person live advertising that I better not touch. When he tried to attack me in the corridor with the other two with boys, I bent his knee with a blow at an angle of 90 degrees in the opposite direction. At the end years, his parents transferred the kid to another school with regard to part of history with a broom handle. I did it in revenge for what he did with the girl. I didn't plan it in advance, soon just took advantage. Turn up about the court of shit detained, not because of my younger sister friend, and because of another girl that gave a statement to him when he left hospitals. Were decided that because financial capabilities of his parents, there is a risk that the state prosecutor will run away. Managed to achieve his detention under guards before the trial, because of which he was sent to the same prison where the senior was brother. Although they were in different blocks, only the meeting did not reach the court jury and hearing. In the case of pledges, he only it was not present on them. The lawyer was most likely book bribed. If you have money and bonds in prison can be obtained almost everything I want. Drugs, or there is no more in many prisons round clock presence of a doctor due to saving funds. Even if a doctor there is usually overloaded with work, and it is often incompetent since other medical institutions pay. This is more forces prisoners to look ways to take care of yourself. Antibiotics, bandages, and supergals, common things that prisoners are stocked for leaving for themselves or use their medical knowledge in order to earn extra money in return. Drug protection may be offered. Alcohol or even legal services. Demand is all the main thing be able to give. I poisoned me for 8 years? Chill now. Without half of the body. This case happened when I was 14. At that time I was an excellent student and honestly incredible avenging boy. 8 years before I was 6 to our school. The new one will call him an assignment that I started to pipe over me. But then I don't attached great importance to this time. For several years ahead there were 11 and his ridicule turned into frank injury. People called me beaten for the fact that I am a post, and from the end of it is growth in Christ. Once stole my things to the family, even hit me on a metal leg with a shameless bat, breaking my small and the big berets. Now healed. Now everything came to the fact that popular children, they got down into groups and daily muta. I continued before that day we went to. I have always been an excursion to the zoo. Animals are interesting, so I was in delight from this event. Is assured apparently noticed my joy and decided turn my day into hell, and now has come the very moment when we approached a aviary with bears, and he approached. I would whisper to me with pleasure. I looked at how these creatures will devour you. For context, between the bridge on which we stood and the place where the bears were located it was about 5 m. I stepped back and waited the moment while he is the abstract seems to be scared and began. Assume 2 more bears have joined us. All immediately evacuated. Recently I found out that Assy survived, but now he has no eye, the nose of the left hand, and both legs have nothing more satisfying the World Cup to see how the person who mocked you for almost 10 years it has become a victim of your plan. After this incident no one no longer touched the asshole. If you are now you read it. I do not regret what I did. Oh yes. For sure you don't have no eye anymore. Changed. 230419. I just received a message from my friend yesterday, assured himself hands, do not contact me otherwise get a lesson that you remember for a long time. Friendly advice. Mocked me like that? Is it strong that I almost drowned? Be ready for a cold place. For starters, small background: I lived in Venezuela, where in state and half private schools in high school, often the atmosphere of cruelty reigns. My mother transferred me from a cozy private school to terrible half private Catholic separate education school, because get to the first school she was it is inconvenient to take me after work. Classes were a real test for her. I agreed to the translation because I knew that she was applying huge efforts to work simultaneously. And she is in education, she is my hero. If that, when I was transferred to this terrible school, began strong persecution of me, bully for the fact that I was supposedly gay. For a long time I did not even understand what it was, connected with my manner, while, after years of my girlfriend from the class of girls, I didn't explain it to me. Almost everything the boys mocked me in one or otherwise, but three people, will call them Luis, David, and Pedro, were most cruel. They called me offensive words, took my dinner, threatened me, beat if you refused to do for them homework, and later anyway beaten, the bruises of the bruises. So everyone was twice day. I almost committed suicide, hiding everything from my mother, because he thought that if it intervenes then only to aggravate the situation. Now to the place ended the 9th grade, and once Mom, I came to school and saw how over me I'm mocking. She talked with the nuns' school managers, but they said that this will make all of me a man. After legal threats on her part, Mom, I started the process of transferring me to a cozy private school, and in the last week of study here I decided that everything is going on. It's time to give up revenge to David. I asked put my mother for lunch spaghetti bolognese, and went to the magazine to buy laxative for livestock before the lessons. I mixed it with spaghetti, and left dinner in his backpack at a break, when this Bruce from Matilda has already returned, suffered from abdominal pain, and begged teachers let him go to the toilet, but the teacher said he should pass the exam before going out of David is not duty, and began to pour from his pants the yellow stream. In the end, he missed everything. Final exams, since it was in the hospital, where he had to after he tried to recover. I'm complaining of me, but by then already transferred to another school for David. I had to take it like that, called complex tests, not to stay in the second year, but still he was able to go to the next class with Luis. There was harder. This kid was real stupid, and sometimes fluttered about how his mom and dad were constantly hit because he was stupid and he needed to get high marks so as not to stay on the second year. He decided that with the help of threats can make me change with him with examination sheets. Of course, I agreed, but filled his sheet for absolutely incorrect answers to he received the lowest score from possible. When at a meeting of parents he announced the results, he also had to give the diet additional complex exams for those who risk staying on the second year. However, my unicellular A friend so firmly screwed up. Mom beat him to such an extent as I heard him began to happen panic attacks every time he showed the Pedro test. Disappeared from sight when I did not enter the second college course. Once his girlfriend, which he managed to flabby, found me on Facebook and begged to help him to occupy bunk in the state hospital, for I don't know how to treat how, but she found out that my grandmother led the department inpatient treatment in one of the hospitals Caracas because of political and economic collapse in the country. The only way to get treatment in ward and not in the corridor where you are. I had to bring my own. The medicine was to know someone from senior hospital staff who could treat you as a person. It turns out the cool guy Pedri too much enough. At 20, he developed cirrhosis of the liver and stomach cancer. For what reasons, one God is known by itself. I called the girl and told her that Pedri is terrible man, and that I sincerely hope that he will stop living in torment, after which blocked all whom he knew from that school. I blamed myself a little for the last case, but my psychotherapist told me that I didn't. I can change what I have already done, and what I nobody owes anything. By analogy with Spanish proverb by Pedri fed so raven, which I went out for now. Thank you for listening. Subscribe and like it so as not to miss new stories.